And today we've got a Polaris. So, not my usual vehicles, also not mine. I know for like the 4 of you that watch these videos, the van is out and driving right now. I know I didn't finish my videos on how I made the long arm for it. It's actually got to come back in for a couple more changes on it, and I will finish editing and filming the conclusion of that, I guess, because it'll never be done, but so I'll do that later. But this is just some quick stuff that I'm working on in the garage in the meantime. So this is a Ranger 6x6 800. I forget what year is it. Might be an 11 or something, but we got to tear this motor apart. I already had a look at what's wrong with it in the field before I pulled it in the garage. It's currently -5 out, I think. It's been getting down to like -13 at night. No wind chill. Freedom units, not Celsius. I don't know what that comes out in Celsius. It's cold. So these 800s are parallel twins, and one of the rocker arms on this #1 cylinder, the threads for the rocker arm bolt are stripped out of the head. So I've got to pull the head off, take that to the machine shop. They're going to repair the thread for me, and then I'm going to throw it back. There's a couple other more things this guy wants me to do to it, but I think this time in the garage he just wants it running again. Later he wants me to put a plow on it. I think he wants to switch to a full-size car battery in this compartment instead of running the tiny battery up front. So that's what this is going to be. So first steps are going to be pull like my fuel injectors off, get my breather hose out of the way, valve cover. I know it's kind of dark in there, but and then I'll drain the coolant. This just had the head off like 10 miles ago. Unfortunately, the last mechanic is the one who stripped out that thread in the head, so everything was just apart, but I still have to pull it all back apart, and we'll go from there. Quick amendment from future checkers. This cross piece, which holds up the center of the seat, goes right over top of the engine. Do yourself a favor and remove it, like first thing you do. Later on in this video you'll see that I didn't do that, because I didn't realize I could do that until I was pulling the head off. It's just these 2 bolts back here, T40 up top, 13mm on the bottom. This one over here, 10mm hex. That'll pull off. That'll make this a lot easier, even though you're going to see me taking most of the motor apart with that on. And here we are with the next step. You can see that we have this is looking much less complicated, but I haven't really done all that much so far. So one of the nice things about these is you can get a lot of access to the front of the motor just by pulling this little plastic cover off. And that's just got whatever 6, 8, 10 T25 screws that go through the bottom there into the frame and then along the side, and then you can just pull this whole front cover off, and that'll let me get this stuff easier. And then pull the fuel injectors out. That's just one little M8 bolt here, which takes in 6mm Allen wrench, and then these are just O-rings on the injectors, so those just pull off. We've got the fuel line set over there. The injector harness, you unplug from the injectors. We got sitting over here. Breather tube, just a quick little pull off. And that's really all I've taken off so far. Also pulled, so I'm draining the coolant. Pulled this hose off of right there, right below the coolant temperature sensor. I think that should get enough out of the system for me, so that hopefully this doesn't, oops, sorry, can't see it, so that hopefully this hose doesn't leak a whole lot when I pull it out. The less you can lose on the floor, the better. So, and then So this, I believe, is the thermostat housing. So that I'll unbolt from the head. We get down here, see our Y pipe coming off each cylinder. Should just be able to pull these two springs, and then when I pull the head off, that'll separate there. So that'll be easy enough. And then, yeah, so I'll start with the valve cover. Then I'll be able to show you guys what happened in there and why I'm doing this. And then I believe that should give me access to the lower 3 head studs, or head bolts. You can access the upper ones here. I'll have to get the other ones from inside. And then I'm going to pull this section of the intake boot off. It'll just be your mass airflow sensor and your throttle body up here. So that is just going to be more M8 bolts, which take a 6mm Allen down there and over there. And then I'll undo this clamp and this section will come off. So let me get that stuff done and be back. Okay, and we are in deeper. So you can see I got my little intake boot pulled off. Once again, 6mm Allen wrench will pull those out. It's an 8mm thread. I know it's kind of weird for me to say it like that, but a lot of people refer to bolt sizes as the size of the head, which is really annoying because it goes by the size of the thread, not the head. So that was really easy to pull off. Apparently the last person never tightened down this clamp, so it just fell off. So the throttle body section fell off, but that's no big deal. Thermostat housing came off real easy. I've got it tucked back over here. There's your thermostat, just sets in there. It's got a recess on there, and the thermostat itself is the seal on the outside here. And then got the exhaust off, those little springs gone. Only advice I have is a needle nose vice grip. That didn't work too bad for me. And then I pulled the valve cover off, which is just these little 6mm bolts around the outside, taking out 8mm socket wrench, or socket and ratchet, whatever you're using. And then, so the reason I'm taking this apart is this rocker arm, which, looking at it, is in beautiful shape. There's not a thing wrong with this, except where it came out of. So this is the pedestal it sits on. That's all good, except for this little stuff right here. We can focus on it ish, kind of. This is the threads that are supposed to be in the block, or in the head, sorry. So what must have happened, or I'm going to assume, you all know what assuming does, is when they were tightening these down, they got a little excessive on this bolt here, which pulled the threads out. So when the owner of this was driving it, he said it just died on him, wouldn't run right, wouldn't run at all, wouldn't crank very well either. So what had happened was this rocker came off of the pedestal, came off, so then it might have been pushing on the valve slightly, but it really wasn't opening. This would be exhaust, maybe? I don't really know which one it is, but so it wasn't opening the valve, and well, you kind of need to have your intake and exhaust valves moving in order for the engine to fire. So, and that's about all. That's the only thing wrong with this engine. So what I'm going to do is finish. I'm going to set, well, once I pull the head, I'm going to take this into the machine shop and have them repair the threads for me. I probably could put a helicoil in it and call it a day. I could probably do it without pulling the head because I've got the access coming from this side. But if I take it off, take it to a shop, I know it's going to be in straight. He's going to put it on a mill. He's going to indicate off that hole. I know it's not going to be misaligned. So I'm much more comfortable doing that. And it's honestly not that much work to pull these heads. So that's the route I'm going. So then that means the next step is to unbolt these 3 here. They take a 10mm socket up top because they are, I don't know, that might be, it's either an M8 or M10, I don't know. And then once you pull these off, then your push rods, they're literally just sitting on top of the lifters. So those you can just pull out. Probably okay if they get mixed up, but just do the smart thing and keep them organized, know where they come from. For me, this is going to be number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to put them on a piece of cardboard as I pull them off. 1, 2, 3, and 4. That way I don't have to worry about if it's probably okay or not. I know what's going back in the same spot. We'll be alright. So then I'm going to pull those out, and then I'm going to figure out whatever size 12-point socket this is, and then pull these 6 head bolts out. And I don't see any other additional little bolts hanging around. Like on my Kawasaki motorcycles, they've got some extra like 6mm bolts that just kind of help get a little extra squeeze on it, but I don't see anything other than the head bolts on these, so I'm going to take care of that now. Alright, so all 6 are out. Those were 14mm 12-point, which kind of raised a problem for me, because they're head bolts and I don't have much for 12-point, so I had to go with a 3/8 drive, but I just grabbed my 3/8 to half adapter. Normally I don't like doing that, but this isn't a whole lot of torque on these head bolts. They didn't feel like they were put in properly, because normally it takes a quarter turn or whatever, at least with still some tension on it. These, as soon as you broke them loose, there was 0 tension, so they could have been right, could have been wrong, who knows. They're out now. So all 6 are pulled, and then this, it just pops right off. One thing to note is around those 2 head bolts, there is a matching dowel pin, so that will align it when you put it back on. So if yours is, mine came off real easy, but if it gets stuck on there, it can't just shift to the side. Even when the bolts are out, it has to come off this way. So you can pry a little bit on each side. Rubber mallets work great for tapping. Don't use a regular hammer. But as you can see, we got some evidence that this cylinder was not running correctly. This one still has hash marks in it. Well, that ridge isn't quite what. Oh no, there's really no ridge there. That's just where that's where the ring stops. So it's not. So the ring won't clean any higher. Well, I say clean, but it scrapes. It won't scrape any higher than it can go. So those cross hatches are consistent with what the owner said, that this is at a recent rebuild, and then very quickly after the rebuild had a head gasket done. Still not entirely sure why the head gasket was done, but once again, not my machine. I was not the one who worked on it, and so now I'm the 3rd one to work on this within like 10 hours of running, which I don't think that head gasket in between there was necessary, but it's not my place to judge. You can also see we got some carbon buildup on here, so I'll get that cleaned up, and then I'm gonna probably pull this exhaust manifold off just to make it easier on the machine shop when he fixtures it, so he doesn't have to have that stuff in his way. Other than that, that is basically everything that you need to tear a head off of a Polaris 800. This one happens to be in a Ranger 6x6, but I'm willing to bet that they're just about the same in everything from a similar, similar years, similar machines, side by sides, and ATVs alike. So that's all for today. I will probably give you guys an update on this once I get it back from the machine shop and start to put it back together. Especially if I am building the battery box or putting the plow on the front. There's going to be a mount somewhere down here. I have to look at the plow he's got to know what he wants, but so I'm not entirely sure why he's got a lawnmower battery from Fleet Farm in here. Whatever. Everyone makes their own choices. Alright. Have a good day.